The person pulling up next to you in that shiny black BMW might have exactly $47 in their checking account. That designer bag your coworker just bought for $3,000? It cost more than her entire emergency fund. And the guy at the bar bragging about his new crypto portfolio usually has more credit card debt than actual investments. Welcome to the era of the fake rich, where looking successful has become more important than actually being successful. Americans now owe over $1.28 trillion in credit card debt, and the average household is carrying over $100,000 in total debt. Yet somehow, the parking lots are still full of luxury vehicles and the malls are packed with designer shopping bags. Something doesn't add up, does it? Today we are going to look behind the curtain and reveal exactly how these people afford a life they can't actually pay for. But more importantly, I want to show you the invisible prison they are building for themselves, and how you can avoid falling into the same trap. Because the truth is, real wealth whispers, while fake wealth screams. Let's start with the most common trap of all, the entry-level luxury trap. You've seen it 1,000 times. The base model BMW or the cheapest Mercedes on the lot. The one with manual seats and no navigation. Manufacturers actually build these cars specifically for people who want the badge without the budget. They want the three-pointed star on the hood so badly that they're willing to drive a car with fewer features than a fully loaded Honda Accord. Think about that for a second. A loaded Honda costs roughly the same but offers way more comfort, better reliability, and lower maintenance. But the person chasing status doesn't want a Honda. They want strangers at a red light to think they've made it. But here's the truth. That base model luxury car comes with luxury maintenance costs and premium gas requirements that eat your paycheck alive. The math gets brutal very quickly. And this is the part nobody talks about. A $500 car payment doesn't just cost $500. When you factor in the hidden math of lost investment opportunities, it's costing you thousands in future freedom. In fact, statistics show that people pretending to be rich often spend 20 to 30% of their income just on looking wealthy. Meanwhile, truly wealthy people usually spend less than 5% of their income on those same categories. That difference compounds over decades into hundreds of thousands of dollars that never get invested. And that is where the dream of retirement goes to die. And this is where it gets dangerous. Because the fake rich always buy the status symbol first and hope the wealth follows. But it rarely ever does. Have you ever noticed how some people just can't stop talking about money? They steer every single conversation back to their income, their new deals, or some massive investment that is about to pay off. You could be talking about what you had for lunch, and they'll find a way to mention how much they spent at a high-end steakhouse last night. This is external validation filling an internal void. The reminder isn't for you. It's for them. They are desperately trying to convince themselves that the image they've projected is real, even when the bank account says otherwise. Watch for the pattern of people talking about money they are about to make rather than money they actually have. It's always, "I've got a huge deal closing next month," or "Once this investment hits, everything changes." They are living in the future tense because the present reality just isn't impressive enough. And honestly, that reveals a deep insecurity that real wealth just doesn't have. Truly wealthy people tend to be private because they don't need to prove anything to you or anyone else. But for the fake rich, if no one sees the wealth, does it even exist? This leads us to the 1%er mindset, or rather, the constant one-upper. Whatever you've done, they've done it better. Whatever you bought, they bought something more expensive. You get a promotion, they got a bigger one. You went on a nice vacation. They spent 2 weeks in the south of France flying business class. It's an exhausting game of social competition where every interaction becomes a contest they have to win. But why? Why are we so obsessed with these status symbols? It's what I call the friendship tax. The crushing pressure to keep up with a social circle that values appearance over substance. We buy things we don't need with money we don't have to impress people we don't even like. And this is the part nobody talks about. The psychological toll of carrying a $5,000 bag when you only have $2,000 in savings. The bag might impress a stranger for 3 seconds, but the empty savings account creates stress that lasts for years. There is an old rule you should live by. If you can't afford to buy it twice, you can't actually afford it once. If a single purchase represents 2 or 3 months of your income, you aren't wealthy. You're just living dangerously. I've seen people finance designer clothes and pay interest on a watch that is already losing value. By the time they finish the payments, they've spent 30% more than the sticker price on something that's worth half of what they paid. Meanwhile, actual wealthy people rarely make purchases that jeopardize their financial foundation. Their luxury items represent a tiny fraction of their net worth, not a significant chunk of their monthly budget. But here is where the illusion gets even more detailed. The social media performance. The curated feed of luxury experiences and expensive dinners is designed to project a life that doesn't exist when the camera is off. For the fake rich, the experience isn't complete until it's posted. The purchase isn't satisfying until the likes start rolling in. We've created a perverse incentive where showing off gets more engagement than showing discipline. A video about spending $1,000 at the mall will always outperform a video about adding $1,000 to an emergency fund. One feels aspirational, the other feels boring, but only one of them actually leads to freedom. And then there's the leasing trap, which has become so normalized that most people don't even see it as a red flag anymore. When you lease a luxury car, you are paying for the steepest depreciation years of that car's life, and then you give it back. You're essentially financing the loss in value for the dealership and paying interest on it. It's a cycle of perpetual payments with zero equity ever. You could lease for 20 years and own absolutely nothing at the end. Leasing lets people afford the monthly payment on a vehicle they could never actually purchase. And that is the entire appeal. The person driving that leased Mercedes looks successful, but they are actually locking themselves into an invisible prison of debt. If you really wanted a luxury car for the quality, you'd buy it used, but the fake rich need that new car smell and the pristine badge to feel validated. And what about the people carrying counterfeit goods? They are literally advertising that they are pretending to be something they aren't. It's ironic because a decent knockoff bag still costs a few $100s. Money that could have bought a genuinely well-made original bag, but they don't care about quality or craftsmanship. They care about the perception of the logo. They are paying money to carry around evidence of their own pretense, hoping that no one looks close enough to see the wrong stitching or the cheap hardware. But here is the truth. The people you are trying to impress can usually tell, and the people who don't know the difference aren't worth impressing anyway. You might also notice the fake rich constantly promoting get-rich-quick opportunities. Not the obvious scams, but the revolutionary systems like day trading or crypto schemes that promise to change everything. They love talking about these because it allows them to operate in the future tense again. They aren't discussing what they've built. They're discussing what they're about to build to justify why they are broke right now. Admitting that wealth is actually built slowly and boringly over decades would shatter the identity they've constructed. Real wealth is built through things like the shadow portfolio or the snowball effect, where money starts making money quietly in the background. But slow and boring doesn't look good on Instagram, does it? The fake rich also love to give condescending money advice, criticizing your reliable used car or your modest apartment.
They need to justify their own bad decisions by making yours seem small. If you are succeeding with a different, more disciplined approach, it threatens their narrative. They need you to make the same expensive mistakes so they can feel okay about their own. But someone who genuinely understands money knows that different strategies work for different people. Actual wealth is understated because it doesn't need to try. It doesn't need external validation. Look at the 2026 statistics for the average American. The numbers are scary. Most people are one car repair or one medical bill away from total financial collapse. Yet they are still buying the $70,000 truck that cost them $1 million in lost retirement. I call this the pavement princess trap, driving a massive, expensive vehicle that never hauls anything just to look tough. The math is cruel. A $1,000 car payment today is actually costing you $4,000 in future wealth every single month. And for what? To look like a high roller at a stoplight? The fake rich optimize for how things look to others. The actually wealthy optimize for how things work for themselves. Every financial decision the fake rich make passes through a filter of external perception. Will this impress people? Will this signal status? Will this make me appear successful? One approach builds wealth, the other bleeds it. We need to stop being cheap with our futures just so we can look expensive in the present. The goal isn't to look rich, the goal is to actually be rich. One path is expensive, exhausting, and leads to an invisible prison of stress and anxiety. The other builds quietly, without fanfare. Until one day you realize you have options that most people only pretend to have. You have the freedom to make choices without financial pressure, the security of knowing you can handle an emergency, and the peace of mind that comes with real stability. So the next time you see someone projecting prosperity, look closer. Look for the base model luxury car, the constant money talk, the social media performance, and the designer items that cost more than their savings. But more importantly, check yourself. Are you making decisions based on what genuinely serves your future, or are you spending to maintain an image that is slowly bankrupting you? Real wealth whispers, it doesn't need anyone to notice, and it exists whether or not anyone else sees it. Living like you're broke in your 40s is often what makes you actually rich in your 50s. It's about following minimalist money rules and staying disciplined when everyone else is showing off. Choose the path of substance over the path of status. Because at the end of the day, the only person you really need to impress is the future version of yourself. The version of you that wants to be free, not the version that wants to look fancy. Stop faking wealth and start building it. Choose carefully, because your freedom depends on it.